And thank you, Jody. I will call to order the Board of Trustees meeting on November 15th, 2021. Our first order of business tonight is our public comment period. This is the period for anyone from the public to speak, unless they're going to speak on one of the topics that are already on our agenda. And if you would, please just wait for that agenda topic to come up before you speak on that topic. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on a different topic? Okay, seeing none, I need a motion and a second to close the public comment period.
I'll move to close public comment.
Thanks, Simon.
Second.
Andy seconds. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Unanimous. Thank you. The next order of business is to approve our minutes from our November 1st Board of Trustees meeting. I would need a motion to move that and second.
So moved.
I'll second.
Randy moved and Pat seconded. Okay. Is there any discussion on those minutes? Any findings or problems? I didn't think so. Jody did her, as usual, excellent job with the minutes. Thank you, Jody. If there is no discussion, I will move that we vote on this. So all those in favor, excuse me, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 Any abstentions or nays? No, okay. It's unanimous, Jody. Thanks, everyone. Okay, we've got a pretty full agenda tonight. Our next order of business after the minutes is to continue our public hearing on proposed local law E 2021 to opt out of allowing licensing and establishing retail cannabis dispensaries within the village of Lansing. This is the first of the two public hearings on the cannabis, the marijuana regulation and taxation law within the state of New York. So I need a motion to open that and a second.
I'll move to open.
Simon moves. Randy, do you second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, for anyone who would wish to speak on this topic, please raise your hand and I'll do the best I can to be sure I go in order.
A quick question. I heard you say this is our first of two. Is that right?
Yes, we have the
Because-
second one on local law F.
Because
Yes.
we changed the language. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Would anyone like to speak?
Kira has her hand up, Ronnie.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. She moved and I didn't see it. Okay, Kira Olson Medina.
Hi, this is Kira's husband.
Oh.
Both of us are sitting here listening to this. And I was hoping to find out a little more about it. I am for allowing cannabis to be available in Lansing. Just a little bit about me. I'm an educator. I have a master's in education. I'm an artist and I'm a father. And I believe it'd be great for Lansing to have this. I'm also have a medical marijuana card, and currently I have to drive all the way to Syracuse to get my medication. So I think allowing it in Lansing would be not only great for the community, but also be a benefit for those of us who use it for medication, who have prescribed to use it for medication, and have to drive 2 hours out of our way just to get our medication.
Okay, thank you. Would you do me a favor and please state your full name and your address?
Hugo, Hugo, Medina, Medina. I
Okay.
live in 5 Cinema Drive, Ithaca, Ithaca, New York. We're right on the border of Lansing and Ithaca.
Thank you, Hugo. Does Kira wish to speak?
Yeah, I would just reiterate a lot of his points. That we actually moved here recently from Arizona, where it was also recently legalized, and coming from a state where that did just recently happen, I think that it would be a detriment to the community in the long run to not allow this business to enter into the community. I think that, people are going to be using these substances, and I would much rather see it be in a regulated space, and especially something where people aren't having to drive. I mean, currently right now we have to drive 2 hours to get his medication. It's an ordeal for us. So it's just something we'd like people to be considerate of, especially since there are people who use this to treat PTSD and a number of other medical issues. So I think not allowing any access to it in the area is harmful.
We're also losing the tax revenue.
Thank you, Kira and Hugo. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Oh, Kira and Hugo, please don't forget to lower your hand. I don't see any other hands raised. So we will need I guess we need to discuss, would the trustees like to close the public hearing at this point?
I think we can close it. We've been open for 2 meetings now.
Okay. And does anyone else have an opinion? Okay, Simon, I will let you move that we close this public hearing, and I'll need a second. Carolyn seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
That was unanimous, Jody. Okay, the second half of this public hearing is for proposed local law F 2021 to opt out of allowing the on-site cannabis consumption establishments within the village of Lansing. So at this time, I would need a motion to open this. I guess we really don't have to open it since it's already open. That's correct, isn't it, Jody? Yes, sorry. So is there anyone out there?
I would just move to continue it.
Okay, then we'll need a motion and a second to continue. Randy moves. Carolyn seconds. Thank you both. Okay, is there anyone who would like to speak about the on-site cannabis consumption establishments within the village of Lansing? I don't see any comments. Okay, then we will need a motion to close this public hearing and a second.
Move to close.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Second.
Thank you, Randy. Any discussion before we close it? All those in favor of closing this public hearing, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Jody, that's unanimous. Okay, so our next part of this discussion is, do we want to vote on each of these proposed local laws? We would start with local law E.
I'd be ready to vote on both. And just on E, I think we should opt in for reasons that we've already discussed. I don't want to make too much of the sales tax revenue. I think that's a tick in the pro column, but I want to make sure that we're always doing the right thing for the village, which may not always be just looking at sales tax. But in my opinion, this is retail sales are legal. I equate them to retail sales of alcohol. We allow those in the village. So I think we should opt in, and I'd be ready to vote on that.
Do we have to vote? I think we do nothing. If there's no.
Yeah, I think this one is a
if
do
no one-
nothing. Yeah.
If nobody moves to opt out, then we just let's move on to the next one. So Ronnie, why don't you ask us if anyone wants to move to opt out?
Okay, that's a good point, Carolyn. Thank you. Would any of the trustees like to move that we opt out of either of these laws?
Just a point of order. I think it's both laws are to opt out. So I think you need a vote either up or down on both of them. Each of them, rather. So if we vote to not opt out, then we're opting in. Basically, a nosy yes.
Okay, just to make it a formality, correct?
Yes.
Do I move to not opt out of local law E?
I think you just need to vote on the proposition, the law in front of you, and if you vote it down, you're not opting out. So if you vote no, you're saying yes, opt in.
Yes, a no vote is a yes vote. it's one of those. I hate those.
So I'll move no on local law E.
We will just vote on local law E. All those in favor of opting out for local law E, vote yes. Raise your hand and say yes.
Yes.
Randy wants to opt out. All those against opting out, local law E, please say no. Raise your hand. No. Okay. 4 no's, 1 aye. That proposal fails, or that proposition fails, sorry. Okay, the same thing for local law F. We will vote on local law F to opt out of allowing on-site cannabis consumption establishments within the village of Lansing. Anyone who wishes to opt out of those, raise your hand and say yes.
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 Anyone who does not want to opt out of allowing on-site cannabis consumption, please raise your hand and say no. Does anyone abstain? Okay, 4 yeses. So that proposition fails also. Okay, thank you all for all of the discussions we've had. For those who participated, I appreciate it. This is a tough decision, but it is an important decision.
Sorry,
Thank
Jody, did you have something? Because I was just confused by what you said there at the end there, Ronnie.
What do you mean?
Maybe Jody,
Carolyn didn't vote,
Ah,
so I didn't know what her vote was.
maybe she's off of the call. Maybe her screen froze. Let's give her a second to come back and vote. I thought that she was just not voting.
So I was just unclear there at the end. So I was voting to opt in to E, retail sales, but to vote
You're right.
opt out of consumption. And I just want to make sure that my vote got through there correctly, because I was unsure.
I apologize. I think that was my mistake. It's one of those voting yes means no. So we did vote to opt out, or we decided not to go forward with the proposal to opt out on local law E. We decided, yes, we do want to opt out of allowing on-site cannabis consumption establishments within the village of Lansing. I apologize for the confusion.
So proposed local law F becomes local law 4.
Local law 4. Okay. Let's give Carolyn another second or two before we go forward.
Maybe would this be a good time for me to make a comment why I'm voting like I am?
Of course.
While we're waiting for Carolyn. I'm on the Thomas County Youth Services Department board, and they are really astonished that the county is going after this like they are. They have statistical information that shows that more and more high school and middle school kids are doing marijuana. And the kids actually believe that it will not and cannot harm them. It's the kind of information that's been fed to them over time. And they believe that alcohol could harm you, but the marijuana won't. And I think that in allowing this, that we're giving a message to the kids that it's okay to smoke. That's how I feel about it. That's the reason I'm voting against it, or did vote against it. I think we should have signs out there when it says, "Welcome to the Village of Lansing," a little sign there, it says drug-free community. But oh well.
Thank you, Randy.
Yes, sir.
Still no Carolyn. I guess we will have to proceed. And if Carolyn needs to say something about what we've already gone through, then she can do that once she joins. She might have may have had a power outage or something that knocked out her internet. Okay, so the next topic for tonight's meeting is to discuss.
Ronnie, can I interrupt, Ronnie?
Yes, Tony.
I'm sorry, I'm liaison from the board and I didn't get the vote on local law F. What was the vote? Was it 5-0, 4-1? What was it?
Well, it was 4-0, but Carolyn could not vote. I think that her internet went out. And I see someone named Teddy. I wonder if she's trying on a different device. She did not vote. I didn't see her hand or anything. I couldn't tell, but she might have been frozen. It just didn't look like she was participating.
So as of now, not considering Carolyn's vote, it's 4 votes to opt out.
4 votes to opt out of public consumption establishments.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay, the next topic is to discuss the proposed change to a bus stop location on Uptown Road with TCAT. I see that Megan Pulver and Matt Yarrow are here. Megan, I don't know which of you would like to start, but welcome to the meeting and let us know what you plan to do.
All right, thanks, Ronnie. Would it be possible for me to share my screen with you all?
Yeah, Jody has to allow that.
Okay.
Setting it up now.
Okay, let's see. Are you all able to see that?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. How about
There-
now?
There we go. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I just want to thank you guys for giving us this opportunity to come and speak with you about this. We met a couple of weeks ago with a few people from the village, and they had asked us to come and share some more information here with you about our proposal for a bus shelter across from the Gaslight Village apartment complex. My name is Megan Pulver and I'm a project manager at TCAT. And we also have Matt Yarrow here with us. Matt, I don't know if you want to say anything more in the way of introduction.
Sure, just I guess my role as assistant general manager for service development and planning at TCAT. So I'll let Megan get going here, and I'm happy to participate or answer any questions at the end.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Okay, so just to orient us, the location that we're talking about, here's a little map of the area. Route 13 is along the top, the north side here. Over to the east is the village park. Further that direction is where convenient care is. And then on the other side there's the McGuire car dealership. And then a little bit over further is Trip Hammer Plaza. And Gaslight Village is sort of right here in the middle. That's the apartment complex we're talking about, or the bus stop location. And there is an existing old wooden bus shelter on the south side of Uptown Road, which is not necessarily an ideal location for people who are waiting for the bus as it comes from east to west down Uptown Road. So from the park side, down towards Trip Hammer Plaza as it picks up passengers who at this particular location are largely traveling in the inbound direction, which is towards Cornell. And let's see, so here's a little bit about ridership at that stop. Matt, I don't know if you want to talk a little more about this.
Yeah, sure. So basically this graph is showing ridership by month for the last almost 3 years. So 2019 kind of shows, you know, the way it was in the pre-COVID condition. The spring of 2019 is kind of reflective of what it's been for the past few years, you know, where we're getting in excess of 900 rides per month at that stop location. And you can see the ridership dropped March to April 2020 and stayed pretty low throughout that year. And in August, September of this year, 2021, with the blue line, ridership again is kind of jumping back up. So as a system, you know, we're at about 75 to 80% of what we were pre-COVID. You know, we were getting at this particular location about 40 rides on weekdays. In the spring of 2019, currently it's about 24 rides per weekday. And, you know, just to give a sense of what that means in terms of, you know, other agencies that we've read about, including some large ones like, you know, the Metro of, where was it? Minneapolis, Minnesota, I think. Sorry, I'm trying to recall. I don't have these notes in front of me. But, you know, their policy is basically that they establish a shelter at every location that has more than 30 rides on average. So this stop right now is maybe a touch below that, but in general, it's significantly higher than that threshold limit. And I think that's all I really want to say about this. So.
Thanks, Matt.
Go ahead. Yep.
Okay, so here are a couple of photos of what it currently looks like. We just took these a couple of weeks ago. And as you can see, when people are waiting for the bus, they're crossing over from the entrance to Gaslight Village, and then they kind of line up along this sort of strip of the shoulder of the road. And, you know, this is not necessarily an ideal situation, like we said. And when we looked at the ridership, as Matt had mentioned, you know, given the amount of ridership, when we started looking at this, it was back in 2019 at some point, but I think even now with the ridership, it still makes sense to try to make some improvements to this stop. And, you know, those include installing a bus shelter that would give people sort of a dedicated waiting area separated from the roadway versus having them stand along the shoulder of the road here. So this is, you know, just an approximate location of where we would put the shelter on the opposite side of the street as the bus is coming down Uptown Road, heading in this direction towards Trip Hammer Plaza. These are a couple of artistic mock-ups, conceptual images, just to give you a sense of what it is we're looking at. And these include a couple of additions since we last talked with the village. We thought it would make sense, if it's possible, to also include a curb, to establish a curb and a ramp along the sidewalk there, and safety railings along the backside of the retaining wall as well as the ramp. If it's possible to establish a curb, you know, this helps with both separation from the road, and it also makes it much easier for a bus to deploy a ramp along a flat, even surface that is at less of a slope for anybody that has mobility impairments, whether it's a wheelchair or not. Having that less of an incline makes it easier for those people to get on the bus. And I think with the way that the stop is currently set up, I'm not sure that anyone who is using a mobility device would be able to access this stop at all. So in terms of bus shelter, bus stop design, and distance setback from the road, this is pretty typical. I think, the majority of bus stops and shelters are placed pretty much right along the edge of the road. And the guidance from the FTA and ADA is that the edge of the shelter be a minimum of 4 feet from the edge of the road. This, in this particular instance, would be set back about 5 feet. We think it would be important and helpful to incorporate a crosswalk to the stop, as well as adequate lighting to make sure that anybody who was crossing the street could easily be seen by drivers. Our shelters, any of our new shelters, we're trying to install solar lights, so there would be a light on the shelter itself. It may or may not be adequate to totally light the entire area, so that might be something we would want to look at. We do realize that there are concerns about installing a mid-block crossing like this, but the options that we have really are to sort of leave it as it is, where people are running across the street to wait for the bus, which is not an ideal situation in terms of pedestrian safety, or do our best to provide a well-marked and well-lit crossing that, of course, nothing is ever perfect, but we do think that this would be an improvement over what currently exists, particularly in an area like this, which is a dense residential area. Having pedestrian access to the bus stop seems like an appropriate thing to try and do. In terms of ADA accessibility, there is, the goal with all of our stops is to make them as accessible and compliant as possible. And the words that the FTA uses, you can see up on here on the screen, is to the maximum extent practicable. And that is especially as it relates to bus stops in rural or suburban areas. And so, in this case, working with the existing conditions is a little bit challenging, and it would be really a difficult task to establish a fully accessible ADA compliant side connection to a sidewalk network. But we do think it would be an improvement to, it'd be reasonable to provide a flat, safe, stable landing area with a ramp that connects to another hard, flat surface, which in this case is the road, and hopefully that could include a crosswalk. In terms of space in the existing area to install a shelter, there was a concern brought up about stormwater runoff and drainage behind the shelter. So we went and we double checked the measurements out there, and it's about 19 feet from the existing shoulder of the road to where the fence line is that separates it from Route 13. And the pad with the retaining wall would only extend out about 11 or 12 feet from the edge of the road. So we did not think that that would interfere with stormwater drainage, as they're still about 7 feet back to the fence line, which is, I believe, the lowest part of the road. And in any of our site visits, we didn't notice that there was significant amounts of water in the area. So we didn't think that would be too big of an issue. Hopefully it won't be. I think this is really just, in a nutshell, what we're proposing, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have or discuss anything any further with all of you.
Just got a quick question about that previous slide.
Oh, sure. Let's see if I can. Yeah.
So one of the issues that I had early on with this, knowing that there'd be 2 bus stops, one across from each other, is that even though there are shelters there, people don't always stay in the shelter, and people stand out on the curb or stand on the shoulder. And I've seen that at the other shelter on the other side of the street there. There's a shelter there, and when I drive past, there's people waiting at the stop. They don't sit in the shelter. They still come out on the shoulder. One thing that made me feel better about what you were talking about, I think I saw it in a previous slide, it looked like that there was a curb between, this black landing pad. Yeah, the curb there. I just didn't really see it on that previous slide though. So there would be a curb there, because that makes me feel kind of better, because even if people weren't standing in the shelter, like the folks in this picture, there is a sort of a delineation between the landing pad and the shoulder to keep people off the shoulder of the road. So is that what's planned there, a curb? It's just I didn't see it in the last picture.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that we added. I don't know if it's in all of them. This one doesn't
Yeah, because
indicate.
this one,
doesn't
sorry, it
show
just
the.
doesn't look like it's built up. It looks as the
Yeah,
same level.
it's not 100% accurate in that, but our plan was hopefully to also include the curb, as you said, to add some more separation between the shoulder of the road and the shelter itself. And also the setback from, in this picture, as you can see, the shelter is set back a ways, and that is because of the ADA regulations. There has to be a certain amount of space. I believe it's 8 feet perpendicular to the roadway for it to meet the ADA requirements.
Okay, yeah, because
One
that was just
thing
my
that I
biggest
heard-
concern. Sorry, go ahead.
One thing that I heard at the meeting that Ronnie and I attended with TCAT, Simon, was that the newer shelters are more appealing to people. The one that was across the street was, I guess, built by the village, and it has a closed off feel. And if you look at this one, and it's more keeping with what I guess the research has shown in terms of what's more appealing to people. So I do agree with you that the red one across the street, I think people didn't think maybe would not want to be to step inside that one, but then with this one with the glass and the front open like that, I think it'd be more enticing.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I
the
think
one
with the
across
glass there too, it just creates a barrier and sort of helps people stay in that area, which makes me feel a little bit better about it, because I just don't want people coming out and standing on the shoulder like they're currently doing. So I do like that it's built up a little bit, and with the glass barriers makes me feel more comfortable, because otherwise my other proposal was going to be, separate them. So move this one 100 yards up the road, or but I like this design.
How are these maintained in the winter?
So we have, TCAT has staff that can maintain some of the shelters. Unfortunately, our staff is limited, so we do try to work with the surrounding municipalities where possible to get that on their snow cleaning area. But usually what we will do is we'll start after a major snow event. Our staff will start at the shelters that are downtown and sort of work their way out in a circle towards the ones that are further out in the county. So we would put this location on our list. It just may not be one of the very first ones that is cleared after a snow event, but we will get to it within a couple days if we notice that it's full of snow and not getting cleared. But yeah, we do try to have agreements where it's possible, and where the municipalities also have staff available that can help us out. So depending.
Thank you for that. I'm assuming that TCAT would be responsible for getting the approvals and constructing that. I mean, it is kind of a project compared to what you normally would do.
Yes.
Yep.
And that's part of why we're here. We've submitted for, or our contractor had submitted for a permit to build this, and it is on the Village of Lansing property. So we would need the approval from the village in order to be able to build this here. But I think all of the work that we're proposing, aside from potentially the crosswalk, which is in the actual roadway, TCAT would be able to work with our contractor to build.
I guess we would have to somehow figure out, we'd have to make sure that the water's not obstructed and still goes through that area
Mm-hmm.
when there's a large event, I guess. That's the only thing I can think of. That's pretty substantial platform there. You'd have to build up.
Yeah, it is. It might not be quite as significant as it looks in this particular image, but it is a pretty steep slope. We did go out there to measure it, and it does drop off quite a bit, to the extent where we thought a safety railing would be necessary, so nobody fell off the backside of the waiting area.
Yeah, we could have somebody like examine it as far as runoff. I think you know, what we saw in the field is that there really isn't a channel right there behind it where it's obvious that the water is running off and creating some erosion during high flow events. In fact, you know, I kind of come from an ecological background. I really didn't see a whole lot of like hydrophilic plants back there. However, on the Route 13 side, you see a whole line of cattails. So it seems like most of the water that's coming down through that kind of greenbelt area is probably on the other side of the fence from what we've observed so far.
Well, from my standpoint, I appreciate the information. I think we need to, you know, we obviously need to do what's right. And it does get a lot of usage. I would personally want to get some feedback from our DPW head before I made a final decision.
Right. I thank you, Matt and Megan. This is pretty much what I had envisioned from the simple drawings that we saw early on, but you certainly have enhanced it here, its usability and safety. And I agree with Randy that if you've got the request into our code enforcement officer, we would just need to look this over as we would any project and determine if there are other issues. The lighting, if it is not adequate on the site per your light installations, there might have to also, and I'm not sure, and I couldn't tell from your photos, if there was a street light at that particular point on the street. And I don't
believe there is.
Yeah, I didn't recall one. So it might be that we would have to install a street light for after dark safety, particularly in the winter hours when darkness comes so soon. So
Yes.
that might have to become part of your project. I know that that increases the cost, but from a safety standpoint, that probably it's an acceptable cost. It's a fairly busy road, both directions. I know some concerns were made about as each bus stops going both directions, if someone tries to pass, they could easily hit an oncoming car from the other side. But I see the stripes there as a caution to really not pass on the road since it's narrow. So I don't know if we could ever prevent that 100%. But that's something else we have to look at. Are there road signs that we should think about installing as do not pass parked vehicles or stopped vehicles? Just as an extra reminder. I know that not everyone reads, not everyone obeys, but we have to do the right things.
Right.
But this looks good, and it looks good to me, and I appreciate the presentation and the more details. This really, I think, allays many of our concerns. It might not allay all of them as we go into it. There may be other issues that we'll bring up, but that's the nature of any project that comes along. And I'm sure you understand that, you and Matt both. So
Yep.
Thank you both for presenting this. What is the timeline for your timeline for trying to have this built?
I don't think we're on any sort of strict timeline, and especially as we're going into winter, I'm guessing we can probably wait till spring. I don't know that we would get the approvals pushed through quick enough to do anything the end of this year. So yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, we've been working on this and having some discussions with John and at the DPW there for quite some time now, and of course COVID delayed everything. So
Right.
you know, as soon as we can, and we can work with you all to get the approvals, that's really where we're at with it.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments from the trustees?
Megan, you said there's a plan for a light inside of that, correct?
Yeah, so we have their solar lights that install onto the shelter itself. So the inside of the shelter is lit up.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice. Okay.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yes, thank you. Anything else?
My comment would just be that, you know, we want to represent the whole village and we want to represent the vast number of bus riders as best we can. And if there's a way that the village can increase the safety for those bus riders, then I'm all for it.
I agree. I hope that we can basically increase our whole mass transit system down the road. Get a lot of our cars off the road. I know that's probably your long-term goal, and I appreciate all the work that TCAT does for our community, our county, and all of our municipalities. I know it's a crazy target that's always moving for you. Every year it seems like things shift and you have to adjust your schedules. But let's go ahead and pursue this through the normal channels. We'll make an official. Please submit an official request or permit request through our code enforcement officer, and we will start the process of getting this project through, and hopefully you can start constructing it next year.
Okay.
And construction windows.
That'd be
Thank
great.
you.
Sounds good.
I see Tony and Graffia has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can, Megan, if you will, or Matt, if you will stop sharing your screen, I can't see any
Oh,
hands.
Sorry about that. Yep, I will.
That's okay. I'm
No,
sorry. Tony. Go
Very,
ahead.
very simple question. Since this is going to be constructed on village property, did I hear you say that the trustees have in fact voted to approve the project, or they don't need to vote, or what's the story?
We will have to approve an easement for this to be built. But we would need more, as you well know, Tony, we would probably need a lot more information before we go to that vote. But this is a good start.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, feel
Thank you,
free to
Megan.
reach out with any further questions if anything comes up, and I'll be happy to answer them for you.
Thank you for the presentation. It was very
Of
helpful.
course. All right. Have a good
Okay.
evening.
Thank you. You too.
Bye, everyone.
Just a moment now. Okay. All right.
Okay. I have a question.
Yes, Randy.
What differentiates them coming to us versus going through the planning board? How do you tell which way to go?
Well, I think that we have to give them the easement. The planning board may very well have to evaluate this project for the installation, but we would have to give them permission to build on village property, on the village right of way. So it is probably going to be a two-pronged process. We would give them permission, and the planning board would guide all of the details and the permits necessary for them to build that once we give them that permission.
Okay, that helps. Thanks.
Okay, so our next topic for tonight is to set a public hearing for our proposed local law G. This is the amendment to the Village of Lansing Code, Village of Lansing Code sewer rents. Did you get a chance to read the sewer rental law or code that Jody sent to us?
You want
This-
me to explain it?
I can try, Jody, but you keep me straight. I've read this and I've heard it enough times. I think I can, but don't let me stray from the truth. So this basically, Cayuga Heights and Bolton Point are both raising rates. In this case, Village of Cayuga Heights is raising its sewer rental rates from $5.05 to $5.20 per 1,000 gallons. And so for this part of our code, that impacts, first of all, residents or businesses who do have village water and those who do not, because they still have to use sewer. So there's two parts to this code, and each one reflects pretty much the same information. It's just one is for people who do have village water service, and the other part is for part A is for those who do have water service. And well, let's see, I might be wrong about that. Yeah.
Right.
Right, and B is for the portion of our village that does not have water service, but the rental rates both have to go up because we have to account for discharge into the sewer systems. So it's going up $1.44 for each 1,000 gallons of water. And that means there's a minimum charge of $7.20. There's also, that's the Village of Lansing part of it, because we are a percentage of the, it's 25%, isn't it, Jody?
Yes, we're 25%.
25%.
So our share goes from $1.40 to $1.44 per 1,000 gallons of water consumed. So the
Right.
total new sewer rate is $6.64.
Right. And there's a minimum charge because there's a minimum of 5,000 gallons per bill on a quarterly basis. So that's what this says. And every time they raise the rate, we have to do this within our code. It's built within our code. So we have to change the code to reflect the new rate, the new sewer rates or sewer rent rates for our village. And so that's what we're doing tonight. Does anyone have any questions? Okay. I will need a motion to set a public hearing. This will be for our December, is it 3rd? No, December 6th meeting.
The 6th.
We would be setting a public hearing, a motion to set a public hearing for proposed local law G amendment to Village of Lansing Code sewer rents for our December 6th Board of Trustees meeting at 7:35 p.m. I would need.
I move.
Randy's moving. Thank you. Simon seconds. Okay. So all those in favor of setting this public hearing for December 6th, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Carolyn, how about you? Are you still frozen? I think she is. She's not moving. Let me see if I can get her in the chat.
Ronnie, you don't see me? I'm on my phone.
Yes. Okay. How do you vote on this?
Aye.
Okay. All right.
So I lost the Wi-Fi. My house's Wi-Fi is down, but I'm on the phone.
We suspected. I'm sorry. So that's unanimous on this, Jody. Also, Carolyn, on the we got your vote on the local law E. What was your vote on local law F for consumption establishments?
I would vote to opt out.
Okay, so that's unanimous for opting out. Thank you.
I
All
came
right.
back in around the time that Tony was speaking, so I did hear the TCAT discussion.
Okay, good deal. Thank you. Yeah, you did comment. That's correct, but it's just a frozen picture at the moment. So there you are. Okay. All right. Thank you. So the next topic for tonight is to discuss the Graham Road West options. And I apologize. I forwarded the information that John sent out 30 seconds before Jody sent hers. Jody was on the ball, but I just wanted to be sure everyone had time to read the information that Peter had provided for us. Thank you, Peter, for writing that section. Do you have anything to tell us about that? How you feel about that?
Nothing other than what was already delivered. We have a lot of options because I think the mall would be happy to do most anything we want to do there. So I think the decision was made a long time ago that we didn't want to own all of it or deal with all of it. But it's constantly hinted that that's kind of on the table if we wanted to. So in terms of options, And the property along the southerly line of it and the access to construct a better road and a better turn onto Trip Hammer, that may be a dollar and cents issue. And we may have to push that if that's something we really want. We have an appraiser working on an appraisal for us to see what he comes up with if we were to take just easement rights as opposed to total ownership. But the last time that was looked at, it was a pretty stiff price to pay for a little sliver of land, basically.
Okay.
So,
thank you. So basically what we're discussing tonight is the DPW crew wants to try to put a superficial surface, top coat on that area before hard winter sets in. I hope we're not too late. So the paragraph that you added to that proposed contract, I guess, is our agreement, is that they would grant us the right to do that until the full contract is completed for the entire mall subdivision. And what we were just looking for wording, and that they would agree to, that would allow us to do this superficial coat for safety purposes over the winter. And then once the subdivision is completed and we have full rights to do the work on the road, we would deconstruct that road down to the base and rebuild it from the base up, so that it would be a longer lasting solution for that segment of road. So that's pretty much what we were looking at tonight.
The reason it was kind of put together the way it was is because until we own the road, we can't do a private improvement. So it was done in a way so that our ability to do that was the consideration for that was some of the other transfers or other, well, in this case, the transfer of the property. But we originally looked at trying to tie it to the transfer of the small portion on the north side of Pyramid Drive, or the grant of the drainage rights on the south side of Pyramid Drive. But it just seemed at the end of the day to just tie it to this one acquisition. And the attorney for the mall has consented. He said he would sign whatever we want, whenever we want. I wanted to get it into the deed so he could show it to the bank so that they were aware of it. But I think we want to get something in writing for him now before Wednesday, when John wants to do this work, to assure that it was considered to be with consideration, that they were paying for it. So,
okay, all right.
It's a pretty good price. I mean, a pretty hefty price for a skim coat, basically.
Right. But from the safety standpoint, that road is so dangerous right now. People are zigging and zagging through the minefield of potholes that it's dangerous. Absolutely dangerous. So based upon this information, do any of the trustees have questions about this?
Yes, I do. I just, I'm unclear who's paying for this. Is the mall paying for it, or is the village paying for it?
Village is paying for
it. We would be paying for
it. And I believe John said $11,500. That's what I thought he said.
No, I think it's closer to between $18,000 and $19,000. The last I heard. His first number was a rough estimate, and once he looked at all of the materials and so forth, and getting them hauled in and the work done, it was closer to $20,000.
So
there's a bit of risk if the wall doesn't close and we don't acquire title there. But we're proceeding with a bunch of actions related to these changes at the mall in order to protect ourselves on prices for pipe and some other things a culvert, or not a culvert, a box. I can't remember the term for it, unfortunately, over by Pyramid Drive on the southwest corner there. So we have some risk already. The mall, if it doesn't close, it disappears. I mean, they're going bankrupt. It's probably, a disaster all the way around. We'll lose some of the anchors there and other options. But on the plus side, it certainly doesn't look like that's likely. It actually looks like it may turn out better than even they've been leaking out to the public in terms of what their thought is. So it's a risk, but it's a pretty low risk, I think. And I think John agrees.
Okay, so my second question though, Ronnie, if we're paying 20,000 for sort of to patch it up or whatever you call it right now, but then we're going to have to pave it in the spring. How much is that going to cost?
That I'm not sure. I haven't seen a final number on it. I apologize, but it will be substantially more because it's a fairly big project where we're, like I said, we're tearing it down to the base, but we're also installing a stormwater system, some new lines underneath the street. So it's a fairly large project. It's a small section of road, but it's a big project. Jody, do you have a number for us?
In our budget, we budgeted, said that it would be 142,200 is what John gave for an estimate.
And there's a chance that price could go up because of the supply chain and materials problems too. So let's just say $150,000. It might be less than that, but it's hard to say. But it's a substantial number.
Jody,
Yeah,
can you let me in to the meeting?
Oh, you're in the meeting, Carolyn. We can hear you.
you are.
I'm on my phone. Oh, here we go.
I got 2 pictures of you.
We can hear, and I saw that you had a question, but Pat jumped in just before you. So what is your question, or your questions rather?
My question was only, I was just trying to get back in on the computer.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
just, I wanted to get in.
Sorry you're having technical issues. It drives you crazy after a while. Is there any other questions or discussion for Peter?
So do we need to vote on this tonight? And is it voting to adopt the language in deed?
Yes. And allowing me to sign and for Peter to sign. Is that correct, Peter?
Yes.
I agree with it. And Peter's pretty much hit on the highlights. There's some things going on here that these guys have to get this done. They're under a lot of pressure. It's got to get done. And this is just a little thing that's helping everything along. It's a gamble, but it's a good gamble. How's that sound?
It's a piece that we've wanted to do for a long time now. It's not perfect and it's not a long-term solution, but at least this gets us through this winter and solves the issue with the surface on that road. Anything else?
I'm good with it.
Okay. All right, then we need, I will move that we accept the wording that Peter sent us today in the 2 versions he sent. One was redlined so you could find it faster. I just need a second and we'll vote on it.
Second.
Seconded by Randy. Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. That's unanimous.
What is the resolution that you're passing? Are you approving the warranty deed with lien conveyance? Is that what you're doing? It's got to be specific.
Okay, sorry. Let me pull that up so that I can read it to you.
I mean, you can say that you're disapproving, but the title of that document.
Yes,
rather
we
than-
are approving the warranty deed with lien covenant provided by Peter Grossman today. It would obviously need to be completed with the correct dates and would have to be signed. And there was something in here that I needed to sign also, I thought. Oh, no, I'm thinking of the MCA agreement. So this, Peter, is this, excuse me, I lost it. So on this particular document, do you need my signature?
We'll need your signature on some accompanying documents, but really this is just an agreement to accept the deed in this form.
Okay.
So this is coming from the mall to the village. There's a
Okay.
separate deed going from the village to the mall.
Sorry.
I don't know if John had forwarded that, but I think that was forwarded a while ago. So, and then there's 2 easements that we're going to acquire from the mall. There were a couple of changes to those to accommodate future possible changes that they might want to relocate those easements. One's for the plow turnaround off of Catherwood.
Right.
And the other was for potential future water line in the extended Graham Road west to the west.
Correct. Yeah.
So,
But you're not doing that right now.
no,
this is just for this particular road surface on Graham Road West tonight. So we will have that document or documents to look at and vote upon in the future, but not at this moment. So thank you all. And thanks, Jody. So did we give you everything you need, Jody?
Yep.
Okay, good deal. All right, let me get back to the agenda. I need 2 screens. Mayor's comments. I really don't have any comments for tonight. So I make the meeting a little bit shorter. But is there anything? I know we have to go through the municipal cooperative agreement. I guess we should do that. And if there's any general discussion around the table, we can do that. So what the municipal cooperation agreement is, the health consortium that we've joined, when the state requires that their municipal cooperation agreement be updated every time new members join that consortium. And they're constantly getting requests for municipalities or organizations or groups to join the consortium because it's such a good deal on health insurance prices and so forth. So every year they have an open window where they accept new members. And they've accepted 4 new members. They've put them into this document, but we have to all of the participating municipalities have to agree to this new agreement. And the only change this year is the addition of those 4 new members. So there's really nothing controversial about this. They're very, I can speak that they vet all of the municipalities to see how the additional employees or members of the municipality or group impact the overall viability of the consortium. And they're very careful about working with the municipalities to make sure that their coverage is acceptable to our consortium and it doesn't impact us to such an extent where it will raise everyone's prices or lower the quality of the healthcare. They go through that constantly. But this year they've added 4 new members. I can't remember off the top of my head who they were, but from our standpoint, it's not really important.
So the towns of Irwin and Throop and the villages of Minoa and Fayetteville.
Thank you, Peter.
Yep.
Thank you, Peter. So those are the new members, and that's the only thing we're doing is agreeing to change this agreement so that it includes the new members. Do you have any questions or comments?
So there was a resolution that was submitted to everyone to approve the 2022 amendments to the municipal cooperative agreement for the Greater Tompkins County Municipal Health Insurance Consortium with all the whereases and resolves. That is what you're approving.
Yes. does anyone want me to read that document to you out loud? Or did you-
No.
Randy,
I did read it. I read it earlier.
and I was getting my voice all psyched up to go through this too. Jody, you'll be able to fill the blanks out. Okay, then, right? If we do this, okay. And I believe that this will include a document that I do have to sign. At
And
the
it's
end.
already in your desk.
I'll be in tomorrow to sign, only if we approve this, of course. So I will move that we approve this resolution to approve the municipal cooperative agreement for the Greater Tompkins County Municipal Health Insurance Consortium. So would someone second that? Randy, thank you. Okay, all those in favor of approving this resolution, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Okay, that's unanimous, Jody. And okay, good. Okay, so that's that. Now, general discussion, roundtable. Randy, do you have anything for tonight?
No.
Okay. Simon.
No, nothing since Thursday.
Okay. Carolyn, how about you? Nothing from Carolyn. Pat?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. Thank you all for a good meeting tonight. And stay warm. Oof, starting to get cold. I think winter's here. Okay, so we need to adjourn. I'll move that we adjourn. We have a second.
Come on, somebody.
Okay, thank you, Randy. I thought we were going to have to stay for a longer meeting.
Jeez.
All those in favor of adjourning, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. Thanks,
Aye.
Jody.